What is up, guys? DT Ninja here to give you guys my RuroKen Hokkaido Arc Chapter 24 review and discussion. Okay, guys, it has been about a month since the latest review. I decided to combine the two, review and discussion, together. It was a shorter chapter, Chapter 24, so yeah. Okay, before we even get to that, I have two things. First, the new chapter will be coming out next week. June 4th is the release date of the latest chapter of Kenshin. Every month, Kenshin drops on the 4th. So, look forward to that. Look for any updates on my Facebook page, on my website. I have left the link in the description to read this chapter or download it, so definitely check those out. And number two, I got a recent new volume. Yes, guys, volume 4 of the Hokkaido Arc, which has Saito, Hajime Saito. Looks pretty awesome. Yeah, so the very beginning, we have this really awesome illustration. Now, I showed it to you when I bought the magazine for the 25th year anniversary. Well, look at this. You got the textless illustration. Yeah, really cool. Really cool. All right, so I will be sharing some references from the volume throughout my video, as well as the other volumes. So, you know, all 4 volumes I have. So, okay. First things first. The review. As always, I want to thank Chris JP20, my good friend who does the coloring for all my scans, for the intro, because the intro was always used for the color scans. I put it together. It's kind of a combination of things. It kind of related to Chapter 3 with Yayiko, so I thought it was a good idea. It also had a couple of other things, so I hope you guys enjoyed that intro. Okay, so the review will be, as always, things that I noticed, interesting things that I noticed throughout the chapter. Now, I split it into 10 things, so I hope that's not too many, but I tried to, cut it down. 10 interesting things that I noticed in this chapter. So, number 1, Asahi insults Aran and Ashitaro for being weak and having a lack of stamina. Okay, at the very beginning, on page 2, you can see it. Aran and Ashitaro are basically laying down. They're exhausted, and Asahi is standing over them. You guys are pathetic. You're weak. You have no stamina. And what's funny about this is the very next panel, the next page, we find out that they're like, what are you talking about? You were the one who was slacking off from the halfway point. And then she makes the excuse that I don't really like the smell of fish, but I love them because they shine. And as you guys know, Asahi loves things that shine, that sparkle, because she wants to shine in the new era, right? So it's pretty funny, but at the same time, I love when she insults them, when she's kind of a hypocrite, right? It's pretty funny, though. Okay, number 2, the shady dealer, con man, sword dealer. At the very beginning, you see him, he's walking through the town. He notices some guys on the street with swords, and he's like, shh. So they're already out in the market. And so I'm thinking, like, how do you not know this? You're the seller. You should know this if you're selling the swords. You know, if you want to sell, you got to know what's out on the market or not. So I'm thinking, this guy's clueless. He don't know anything what's going on. And I was exactly right, because at the very, he spots the kids sitting there, and he's like, oh, these are easy marks. And he goes over there, and he thinks that, okay, this guy wants a sword. He's got a sword already. And he's like, nope, I got my own. And then the girl, nope, I don't need a sword. And then Aran, okay, this guy might want one. And then this guy exposes this guy. He's like, no, you shouldn't be selling swords at all. You're selling them for almost nothing. 10 sen. He said, for any sword you want, for any gato sword that I have here, you can have for 10 sen. This is 1 coin, 1 silver coin. And he's like, and for reference, 100 sen equals 1 yen. That's how low price this is. You're basically buying something that's a very low quality. And obviously the gato sword is low quality, but he exposes him. And I love that. I love it. Really good stuff. Okay, and this will be a discussion question, so we're going to touch on that in a little bit. Number 3, Asahi is quite good at handling Ashitaro when it comes to certain matters. Now, what do I mean? Okay, in this chapter, Aran is going off and explaining, supply and demand. He's explaining how Gato swords and Kabato prison and how Kinkaku Heki are all connected some way to this man Gato. And he's just like, what's going on? And Asahi is like, shh, let him finish. She has a way of making him listen. He listens to her for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why, but they have a mutual understanding. They understand each other in some way, and he listens to her. And we've seen this more than once. And we've seen it in the first chapter, where they both smile to each other. I'm glad you got out okay. And then he helps her out when she wants to be free from the Yaminobu. And then the same thing happens with Asahi. She doesn't like violence, so she steps in and stops Ashitaro from making a fool out of himself, being reckless against these two thugs, which he probably could have knocked out easily. But let me just show you for reference what I'm talking about. So basically, this was in, I believe, chapter 22 or 23. I'm not exactly sure which chapter, 23, I believe. But anyways, these are the thugs I'm talking about. He insults them, and they say, you want to fight? And he's like, you bet I do. And then Asahi is basically holding him back right here when he's trying to fight. And you can see, Aran actually apologizing to Kenshin. So you can definitely see she can handle him pretty well. I've noticed this. They understand each other. Like I said, she doesn't like violence, and Ashitaro respects that about her. But when he does present violence, she tries to stop it. So she's very dependable. She's caring. She's strong. She's definitely a good friend to have. So that's definitely why they, understand each other well. Okay, number 4. Aran explains how to find the prisoners at Kabato who fled from the prison, even if they are disguised. This is very important because we learned that the prisoners, fled, and the worry is that they disguise themselves. So there's no way to find who they are or what, if they were prisoners or not. Wrong. Aran figures out, wait a minute. That guy named Anji, he was wearing some sort of, I don't know, maybe he saw him with it? I don't think so, but he figures out that they have some ball and chain, maybe just from, just thinking out loud. But he figures out that they have, ball and chain connected to them if they're, punished severely. So, this is a very severe prison. This is one of the most notorious prison in Hokkaido. So, let me just share what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the ball and chain I'm talking about. Okay, this is Anji, but here's the ball, here's the chain, it's wrapped around his leg. Okay, this is what he's saying. He's saying even if they disguise themselves, I can find them, because if they were disguising themselves, all he'd have to do is look at their legs, because there should be some sort of mark, some sort of bruise left over, because he's basically pulling that with all his weight, and that looks heavy, right? So there's going to be some kind of leftover mark, leftover bruise, and this is what's interesting, because he is able to discern this simply from, just understanding what prisoners are like. So that's pretty cool. Okay, number 5. Aran also believes that Gato seems to be a connection between Kabato prison, the prisoners who sell swords, and Kinkaku Heki who attacked it. Now, we learned this before when the official in Otaru explains that. So, the thing is, are the Kinkaku Heki the ones responsible for having the prisoners sell the swords, or is that all Gato? We don't know. but there is some sort of, question mark onto whether it is. But it's interesting that Iran brings that up because it's a very important point. Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in the discussion. So I just briefly mentioned it, but we are going to talk about it in the discussion. Okay, number 6. While Iran is very intelligent, he still lacks the strength to fight. Okay, we've seen it many times. He has to be saved. Iran is, attacked by Asahi. He's like, I don't want to fight women. I'm a gentleman. And, he's just weak, right? Well, we see it in this chapter. He walks into Gato-san's house, and these thugs just come straight at him with a sword. And who protects him? Ashitaro just tosses him back, and he saves him, right? He protects him. And before this, it was actually Asahi protecting him. And not only that, she protected both of them. So you can definitely see that they are the strong ones, Asahi and Ashitaro. But let me show you what I'm talking about when I mean Asahi protected both Ashitaro and Iran. So when the Juppon Gatana are first introduced, you guys remember when they came? So basically, you can see Saito there in front of Hiketsuhi. He talks about how there's some guests that are coming, and you can see Asahi is here. Kenshin basically tells them, stay at my side. That's what it says. However, the one that actually grabs them is Asahi. Asahi is the one that protects them. Because the next scene, we got this. So, yeah, you can see Iran is not very reliable when it comes to strength. However, his intellect, his strategic understanding is very important as a character as well. And I love strategy, so pretty cool. Okay, so number 7. Ashitaro seems to have taken Kenshin's words very seriously because ever since he only relies on his own strength. Now, what do I mean? Well, at the very beginning of the Hokkaido arc, he fights Kenshin, right? We see him, he releases the Mugenjin. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So he gets in a fight at the Akabeko trying to help out Asahi. Well, he ends up in a fight with Kenshin, and he releases the Homuradama and the Mugenjin, and you can see the result. It's pretty crazy. So what ends up happening is Kenshin fights him, pretty much takes him out, and then what does he do? He seals the sword. Now this is very interesting because he seals it. He puts it in bandages. Basically, he wraps it in bandages. So he seals the sword and he tells him, you must never draw the Mugenjin. Never draw the sword. And he's like trying to figure out, did the sword choose him or did he choose the sword? He's kind of wondering. And throughout the Hokkaido arc, we've seen Kenshin is really keeping an eye on Ashitaro on whether or not, he's going to be able to hold back. So in, I believe, chapter 13 or 14, I think it's 13. But anyways, you see him again, and he mentions it once more. He says, never draw the Mugenjin again. And he says, yes. And you see Shishio's spirit in the background. You can see it right there. Now, why is the sealing of the sword so important? I feel that this is actually kind of like symbolism, okay? So Shishio was wrapped in bandages, right? Because he was burned alive. Well, in a way, that sword is his, and it also is kind of on fire when it's released. So he's sealing it kind of like Shishio's spirit, right? So he's basically sealing Shishio's power. That's what I feel. So now that he's using his own strength, even though it is a sheath that's wrapped in bandages, he is using his own strength. Even though it's not his sword, he's using his own strength to fight. In a way, he's using the Kamiya Kashin style without even realizing it. So every time you see him fight, like in this chapter, we see Iran being attacked. He just hits the guy with the wrapped, the sheath. So he actually attacks with the sheath. And we've seen this more and more, right? Now, we're going to get to a discussion question, which is going to talk about what will happen to Ashitaro later on in the Hokkaido arc. So look for that. But anyways, I thought it was interesting because without him even realizing it, he's gained friends, he's learning to protect them, he's learning things that are more important than just power. And I like that. I like that. So, and Kenshin's teaching him this. Okay, number 8. The mysterious man in the dark suit never reveals his name. This is the guy that we thought that was Gato-san. Okay, so in chapter 21, we get a reveal of this character, and we thought it was Gato-san because we get like the reveal of him in chapter 22, I believe, 22 and 23. So we're thinking it's all Gato-san, but no, it's not him at all. We don't even get a name. Aran assumes it's Gato-san, so he goes on and explains that, you know, the Gato sword is very dull. It's not going to work for selling them. So, but it's interesting because he goes on to explain the flaws of the sword because he believes it's Gato-san himself. So I found that interesting that he kept it a mystery that we still don't even know who this guy is. And that is another discussion question. So stay tuned for that discussion question. Number 9, Aran's strategy to downgrade the Gato sword from the daimyo Gato sword that that guy that we thought was Gato-san introduces. He says downgrade it to a wooden sword, a shinai. And open a dojo is not only brilliant. So this idea, this strategy to open a dojo, selling shinai as well, is not only brilliant, but it also reflects Ashitaro, Aran, and Asahi as students themselves. They are students of Kamiya Kashin, so the fact that he uses this as a model for their plan is very interesting because first-hand experience, he knows what would work because he is a student himself. So that is very interesting. And also, we learn from Gato-san himself that there is no one there that can teach Kendo. So it's interesting that the students are there basically trying to help them. So, is this guy a bad guy? It kind of leads me to believe he's not, but he could be. And we're going to talk about Gato-san in another discussion question, so stay tuned. Okay, and why does he know this so well? He's a student of Kashin style. Also, he knows from Master Yahiko, because Yahiko taught him what he knows, right? So, yeah. Okay, number 10. This is the last one. Oh, and for number 9, how is the Kenkaku Heki involved with Gato-san? That will be part of the discussion question. That was what I was meaning to say. Number 10, Gato-san is actually a cautious man. That is why we didn't get the introduction right away. We believe that man that was shown with the thugs, that is Gato-san. He's shown, he's sitting down, he looks like the big guy. That is not Gato-san. He's a very cautious man. He's hiding in a pot, in a vase. It's very different, but that is Gato-san. Why is he hiding? Because he's cautious, right? But he's using hand gestures. And you guys know I use hand gestures all the time in my video. What does this suggest? You know, like hand gestures literally means you're energetic, you're warm, you're open. You know, this is the kind of person that you would think of. And we're going to talk about that in a discussion question, just along with Gato-san. So, anyways, I found that interesting. So, what kind of man is Gato-san? Is he faking it? Well, we're going to discuss that here very shortly. Okay, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed my review. So let's get to the discussion. And the discussion will have a lot to do with Gato-san, with Aran, also with wooden swords, the shinai, as well as the Kenkaku Heki and Saito. So there's a lot of things that I'm going to cover, as well as Ashitaro. So there's a lot of things that I want to cover. There's 7 questions, but that's a lot of things that I mentioned. Okay, number 1. Why is the shady dealer trying to sell swords for almost nothing? Okay, so Aran exposes the dealer, the sword guy. He exposes him. He says, why are you selling this for next to nothing? And he seems uninformed. He seems desperate. That's why he has a commission to meet. So he has to do it to make money. That is part of the way it works. And he talks about supply and demand. You have this, it could be this, or it could be this. And basically Iran says, it's one of those things. So he exposes him, right? And like I said, he seems uninformed, not very smart. Iran exposes him and basically says, I want to meet the head guy. Tell me where Gato-san is. It's brilliant, right? Everything that Kenshin and Sana was looking for, Iran did it just like that. I mean, that's just how good he is. Number 2, Ashitaro is quite protective of his friends. Okay, we've seen this in the past. What would happen if he were to withdraw the Mugenjin to save one of them in a battle against the Kinkaku Heki? So we know there's going to be a battle coming in the later on with the Kinkaku Heki. What would happen if he draws the Mugenjin? That is Shishio's sword, by the way. If he draws it again and the flames are shown again, it covers his whole body again. What would happen? Would he truly be possessed again by the spirit of Shishio? Or would he be able to restrain himself and actually put it back in its sheath himself? That's interesting to think about because, like I said before, Kenshin has been testing him. This is kind of a test that Kenshin has done. He wrapped this sword in bandages, like I said. It's kind of a symbol of Shishio, kind of like sealing away Shishio. But the test is that if he draws it, would he be able to withstand the power himself and restrain himself from being taken over? He wants to use his own strength, right? He knows that the killer be killed thing is very common, and he knows that's how he grew up. So he's going to follow that, but at the same time, he's learning to protect his friends. What would happen? What would happen? What do you guys think? Do you think that he would be able to restrain himself? I think he would. I think he would kind of learn to use it, but at the same time, maybe the flames would show up and maybe he would see them, this time not as possessed, okay? Because before he was possessed, he didn't have a clue what's going on. His face was mad. I mean, we've seen this before, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, especially in Ashitaro the Ex-Con. So in Ashitaro the Ex-Con, we see that's what his face looks like. I mean, he looks like a killer here. You see, it's just mad. So would he be able to restrain himself? I think he might, especially with Kenshin kind of restraining him, using the seals kind of as a test. He's using the Kashin style, even though it is a sheath. So it's kind of like using a wooden sword in a way, but it's not a sword, it's a sheath. But we've seen Kenshin use a sheath and is pretty good at it. So it still can be used as a weapon, but it's kind of a test for him. So I think it'd be either way. If he were to draw it, I think that he could be possessed again. But then again, the way that he's been shown to fight now, protecting his friends, I think that it's possible that he could restrain himself and unsheath it, and maybe even learn to use it himself without being possessed. So what do you guys think, though? So number three, who is the man in the dark suit that Iran meets face to face? So he talks about, you want to talk about money, so let's talk. So he says, are you Gato-san? He doesn't really respond, so he assumes it's Gato-san. So he goes on to explain the flaws of the Gato sword, which they're dull in quality, they sell way too wide, they're widely available, so they're not going to do very well anymore. He basically goes on to say that they're not very effective anymore. And so that guy, which we still don't know, says that, well, I got something up my sleeve. It's the Daimyo Gato sword, and it looks like it's an adorned, decorated sword, really nice. Daimyo are feudal lords, so these are richer people. So the problem with this sword is that it's for display. It's not to protect you. And that's what Iran says. In town, those children are there with swords because they're afraid of their life. They are not going to care about a decorated sword. If they wanted a decorated sword, they would not be out in the middle, of a crowd. They're protecting themselves. So they need a sword of quality. So Iran basically shoots down that plan of his. But who is this guy? Is this guy a right-hand man of Gato? He explains that Gato is a cautious man, so maybe he stands in for Gato. But who is he? We don't get his name. So I found that interesting that we didn't even get his name. And I think it was to show kind of the surprise that Gato-san is actually not this guy. He's actually in the pot over there. Yeah, he's in a pot or a vase. It's pretty funny. But yeah, anyways. This leads to the next discussion question. Number 4. Why does Iran think that the wooden swords will sell better than the Gato swords? Well, I kind of explained a little bit. Because of their quality. He witnessed firsthand that Sano was able to smash the Gato sword without even using Futai no Kiwami. He basically used his own regular fist and it smashed it in half easily. So he knows they're dull. He knows that the kids are like quivering in fear because they need a quality sword to back them up, not a decorated sword like the daimyo sword. So the reason why Gato swords are not good is because of the quality. They're very easily manufactured, but the quality is very bad. So that's not going to help people that need them the most. That is why it's a failure. Now, why is the wooden sword good? Because it really instills the spirit, the heart of a samurai, the heart of a swordsman. And we know that from Kamiya Kashin. And I think it's interesting that Iran explains that wooden swords, you could actually open dojos. You could have people training, and this could be like a business, You could sell the swords, but you could also, sell this is a business. The dojos would actually bring in money. And this would actually strengthen, the people that need protection. So it's a very interesting thing because he himself is a student of Kamiya Kashin, which also use wooden swords. So it's very interesting, but we also know that he is trained by Yaiko Myojin. So I found that very interesting. So if there was a chapter that Iran shines, it's this one. Especially when he explains that the swords that people need the most, with that really badass look on his face, are not dull ones, but the ones of Kenjutsu. And he's talking about the shinai, the wooden sword for kendo. So, yeah, I found that really awesome, and everyone's eyes just lit up because, Iran, Asahi, Ashitaro, they're all students of Kamiya Kashin, so they understand somewhat what he's talking about. But the problem now is that there's no person to teach them. So they mention there's someone there, and that's the way to get Kenshin to meet Gato. It's brilliant, right? Okay, now, number 5. We all know Gato swords are connected to Kabato prison in some way and the Kinkaku Heki. This is a hypothetical question. What if the true purpose of Kabato prison's attack, the assault on Kabato prison, was actually to capture 2 warriors? And I think this is actually true. They attacked to set the prisoners free, but it was also to capture 2 people, Anji, the destroyer, and Yoshie Sugimura. Now, why would they go after a Jupungatana and a Shinsengumi, a former Shinsengumi? Well, when you think about it, Kendo Master, he knows swordsmanship, right? He could teach other swordsmanship. What do they need right now? What does Gato need for this plan right now? A Kendo Master. So, if Gato is connected to the Kinkaku Heki, was it the original plan of the Kinkaku Heki to have him in their group, to sway them into their group so that he would be the one to help train them? And remember, Nagakura himself explained to Byakuya, we could set up something with the government. It does not go against the government policy to help train your warriors. So that kind of reflects back to the Kinkaku Heki. So I found that interesting. And Anji is very he's a prisoner himself, but he's also strong and he's a warrior. So I feel this was kind of their main goal, and you can actually see it in chapter 9. So if you want to go back, you can go to chapter 9 and you can see what I'm talking about. So this is where he's looking for them, right? And it explains how he escaped. And he talks about, we're a day too late. They're ahead of us. So it almost seems like he was going after the Kendo master because they wanted someone who could train, a master. So it's interesting now, like I said, that Gato's plan, or Iran's plan for Gato, mentions, needing someone in Kenjutsu. That is very interesting. What if that was the original plan and not just the selling of Gato swords? What do you guys think? That would be interesting if that is the case. Obviously, it didn't happen. He's working for the government. He found a way to flee, to get out of there before the attack. But the point is, they were after him. They were after him for a reason. So what if that was their main goal, was for that? That's very interesting to think about. Okay, and like I said, this was not going against government policy. Like I said, Nagakura did mention to Byakuya, we could set something up and we could get your warriors trained, and we would have to, penalize you for the attack on, Kabato prison, but we could still work something out. Okay, number 6. What kind of man is Gato-san? What kind of man is Gato-san? Okay, Gato-san is the guy who uses gestures, just like me, okay? He's using gestures like, no, okay, good job, Iran. He's like using all these gestures. He's very energetic. What kind of man is he? Because the chapter title is called That Man Gato-san. What kind of man is he? We're going to get a meeting between Kenshin, Sano, and Gato-san face-to-face. I don't know if he's going to be hiding in a pot again, but we're going to get a face-to-face meeting. Hopefully not. But I have a feeling that we're going to get a meeting, and we're going to get down to what kind of man he is. But what kind of man is he? What do you guys think? Like I said, he uses gestures, which suggests, like I said, that you're energetic, you're warm, you're open to things, okay? This is someone that is agreeable when you use gestures like I do. I'm agreeable, I'm warm, energetic. This is the type of person that I am. I use gestures. I'm a teacher myself. But Gato-san could be faking it. He could be cold and distant, and we don't know that. But he is cautious, so that kind of does throw things off a little bit. But what kind of man is he? He could be agreeable, he could be warm, but he could be throwing us off. He could be faking it, to kind of make us believe that. But I found it interesting. What do you guys think? What kind of man is Gato? Is he cold? Is he, cunning? Is he warm, nice, agreeable, energetic? He does use gestures. So what do you guys think? Okay, last question. This refers to the coming chapter 25. What dangers await Saito, Nagakura, and Eiji in Sapporo? So, in Sapporo, there is going to be another combat field experiment, just like the one in Otaro. There's going to be something like that, especially the one that happened in Kabato prison. Is it going to happen just like Kabato? Is there going to be an assault? Or is it going to be like in Otaro, where there's just mass fighting and the police have to break it up every day? That's pretty much a combat field experiment when you think about it. They're basically killing each other every day. So what kind of experiment is it? Is it just a test of will? Is it, actual assault? And who's behind it? Who's behind it? Is it Higo of the Kabato prison? Or is it Kanzato, the big guy that's talked to the leader? So what do you guys think? What's going to happen in Sapporo? Is it going to be a combination of things? I am looking so much forward to the latest chapter. I hope you guys enjoyed my review and discussion. I hope it wasn't too long. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Stay tuned for the latest updates for DT Ninja. I will see you guys in the next one.